Hello everyone, this is McKay, Flying Kick of Doom, and here's an honest review of Story of Seasons for the 3DS from a veteran Harvest Moon player's point of view. So here are the top 5 reasons Story of Seasons was a good game. First off, I really like the farming. I've seen the game get a lot of flack for having the farming mechanics seem too simple. Personally, I thought it was fast, fresh, and easy to get used to. In a lot of other Harvest Moon titles, even some of my favorites, the farming seems to drag by, and I avoid it as much as possible despite the game being a farming simulator. In Story of Seasons, you have to first hoe the land, plant the seeds, and then water them, and the process is overall really easy. I won't go into too much more detail about it, but the part I like the most is the fact that you can pick up the entire harvest in Story of Seasons with one button. You press the button, and the game automatically packs up the harvest in a box, and your character can pick it up really fast and move on to the next square of land. This process makes picking harvest seem a lot easier and more realistic, and overall this is one of the really good qualities Story of Seasons incorporated. Number 2 on this list would have to be the customization. This is really what gets me into the newer Harvest Moon games. I feel like the older ones have a lot more charm and nostalgic appeal to them, but the customization options in the newest Harvest Moon titles make them all worth the while. In Story of Seasons, you can customize your character's entire appearance, and even change it later on if you want. In A New Beginning, the previous title, you were stuck with the initial facial features you picked out for the rest of the game. Story of Seasons definitely fixed this issue. I also like that the game got rid of making your character build a salon just to change their hair. In reality, you don't need to go to a salon to put your hair in a ponytail. Some other customization options include changing your character's clothes, house, town, and decor. The only downside to those is the fact that you have to purchase blueprints, spendy ones, mind you, and collect numerous materials to make any of it happen. A lot of the blueprints you might want don't have adequate descriptions of the item, so you might buy it and not even end up liking what you picked out due to the lack of visual provided on the item's blueprint. I recommend saving before you purchase a blueprint, then resetting if you don't like it after you check out what it's going to look like in your house's blueprint book. In a previous title, A New Beginning, you were able to build houses for all of the new townsfolk and customize where they were placed. In Story of Seasons, it doesn't focus on the building, and you can only build houses for yourself. The only editable property in the town is given to you piece by Veronica the Guildmaster. Even so, I still haven't bothered to decorate the town. It's already decorated, and it's hard enough to make my own farm look good. But I don't really think that the game missed out on a whole lot by leaving out the building options that A New Beginning had, because Story of Seasons really made up for it with all the other customization options they added. Number 3. In and of itself, this game is awesome because it's not the Lost Valley. I'm sorry for harping on this game, but it was a total failure. I'm sure most of you already know the details on the complicated switch-up of the Harvest Moon titles and switching of the contracts with previous publishers. Basically, for those of you who don't know, Story of Seasons is made by the original makers of the Harvest Moons we know and love, and the dual release alongside Story of Seasons, The Lost Valley, wasn't even made by the original Harvest Moon creators, despite exhibiting its recognizable label. Story of Seasons is yet another release of the Harvest Moon games that are favorites to many players, and that is a plus in and of itself. Number 4 on my top 5 would have to be the choice system. This is definitely new to Harvest Moon. Story of Seasons, at the very beginning, gave the player a choice to have the settings fit for a veteran farmer or a beginner titled Seedling. This was a total shocker, and I obviously chose veteran seeing as I've been playing all the other Harvest Moon games up to this point. I looked into the differences between Seedling and Veteran and was surprised to find they mainly center on the prices. This is for how much seeds and items cost and how much yours sell for. This definitely has a huge impact on gameplay and how fast your character is able to advance. Overall, I think that incorporating this choice system really pulls in new players to Harvest Moon. Okay, number 5. Last and definitely not least, the Bachelor pictures. Okay, I usually go through and play Harvest Moon games first as a female, then as a male. Since Story of Seasons is fairly new and I haven't had a whole lot of time to play it, I've only gone through it as a female so far. And I must say I was very pleased to see the developers kept one of my favorite qualities of a new beginning, a consistent concept. This concept I'm talking about is the Bachelor pictures you get to see after you marry your desired spouse. The game gives you a highly detailed illustration of your chosen spouse as some eye candy to gaze at as the credits roll after your wedding. Little did they expect the player would be sitting there staring at the babe on the screen rather than reading the list of developers. Sort of counterintuitive, wouldn't you say? Well, I'm sure not complaining. So now with every game comes their pros and cons. For the most part, Story of Seasons impressed me and I really enjoyed the overall experience. I enjoy every Harvest Moon title, not even acknowledging the Lost Valley. But alas, I must touch on some of the ways this game went wrong. So here you have it, my opinions of the negatives of Story of Seasons. Number 1, the tutorial. I'm sure every veteran Harvest Moon player wanted to pull their hair out sitting through this boring, pointless, self-explanatory, weird tutorial. The game should have had a built-in response to skip the tutorial if the player chose the option Veteran Farmer. Harvest Moon in and of itself is a pretty self-explanatory game. You farm, you sell, marry, stuff. I get the tutorials that occur before new festivals and events, but the introduction tutorial, that lasted a week, mind you, was just pointless in every single way. There's one speck of story indication relating to this tutorial later on in the game, which I'm not going to include in order to avoid spoiling the only story aspect the game has, but it still doesn't give reason for this boring and ridiculous tutorial. All in all, I think the tutorial just tried to make the game more confusing than what it actually was. Number 2. I'm going to list probably the most fatal error in this game. The lack of social system. I like Harvest Moon because I'm a lonely person. I'm sure that's why you like it too, and why you're watching this video right now. Games like Harvest Moon, life simulators, are built to take the player away from real life into a life-like setting that surrounds them with relationships the real world lacked. In just about every Harvest Moon game, and even some Rune Factory titles, I've been able to find at least one spouse that I find a strong connection with. Most of the time, I find more than one and have a hard time choosing who to marry. In Story of Seasons, this was not the case. I didn't feel that connection with any of the bachelors. Want to know why? First off, Fritz. I like to farm in-game, not in real life. The connection wasn't there at all. Number 2, Camille. I feel like I want to be his best friend, not his girlfriend. I feel like I want to paint my nails with him, not hold hands with him. Something's just off. Number 3, Claus. Okay, at first I actually liked him. That is, until I read this dialogue. Yeah, not feeling the Levi lookalike vibe anymore, Claus. Number 4, Mistel. I'm not a lolly. Need I say more? Number 5, Naughty. Naughty? I don't know if that's right. Okay, I'm in year 3 and I haven't even unlocked him yet. Not sure what I'm doing wrong here, but I can't have a connection with someone I've not yet unlocked. Number 5, Rhaegar. I decided to marry him. When placed in comparison with my previous Harvest Moon husbands, he's definitely not among the top. It's not that he's unattractive, he's just really boring to me. He's conceited and especially rude to you every time you step in his kitchen, even if you're just trying to give him a gift or say hi. Just rude. So, his heart events weren't very romantic, saw little to no character development, all very cliche, and I might be pretty biased on this just because the last Harvest Moon game blew me out of the water with having one of my favorite bachelors in it, Neil. Compared to Neil, Rhaegar is awful. But, by the way, I have to point out how ridiculously different Rhaegar looked on our wedding day. Normally the spouse gets all dolled up and sexified, but Rhaegar looked horrible. He was so creepy. Okay, just look. You see? It's like Rager turned into Giorgio or something. It doesn't look anything like his normal character picture. And I might be going a little bit too far on this, but seriously, the whole social system really just sucked in this title. Aside from marriage candidates, the townsfolk weren't too interesting themselves. There aren't very many unlockable villagers, which used to be a very intriguing trait to other Harvest Moon titles. This is a big turn-off from the game to me. Engaging with the villagers to trigger a cutscene used to be one of the great replay values of the Harvest Moon games. Heck, in Tree of Tranquility, you could befriend marriage rivals and make them get married and have kids themselves. Story of Seasons, you really dropped the ball on this one, and it was one of my most favorite concepts of Harvest Moon. Number 3, the Conquer system. I like that they use the word conquer because that's my cat's name, except it's spelled like this. You probably don't care. So, the concept of the Conquer system is to outsell other farmers that have the land that you want to own. This process seems fair enough, but it's not very well explained in the game, nor in the help guide within your bookshelf. Basically, someone's lease runs out, you claim their land, they get mad, you challenge them, and then you sell as much as you possibly can until your conquest day is over. At the end of your conquest day, Veronica will summon you to the guild and reveal the results. If you win, you get the lease, and you have to renew it when it runs out to avoid conflict with other farmers. You see, for whatever reason, I thought the conquest would count my earnings from the beginning of the game and just reset after the conquest day ended. No. The count starts right after you start the conquest and ends at the end of your conquest day. I wasted a lot of money because of this, and it's just because I didn't save before I sold everything and sold it on the wrong day. Not fun. Despite being stupid, I managed to get all the fields, which was pointless. I thought I'd get something special, high five, cutscene, but literally nothing happened. I cried. That happened. But seriously, that's the closest thing you're gonna get to a story in this game. Alrighty, number 4, prices. Okay, just let me say, everything in this game is way too expensive. Getting the house upgrades drained me, and it's impossible to do anything without planting lots, which requires lots of health, which you don't have. But I'll get into that more later. But just take a look at this house I wanted to buy. Do you see that? It's just an upgrade. I don't even know. How can anyone afford that? Or the jewels. Save scumming isn't supposed to be a natural mechanic, but it's like this game forces you to do it. And even if you do it every single day, it'd take you at least 2 in-game years to get that many ores. For those of you who don't know what save scumming is, it's the process that you save before you mine / search tree stumps, and then reset if you don't get your desired item. When searching for items like black lumber and pink diamonds, you can find yourself save scumming for up to 30 times. This is a very time-consuming process that really takes the fun out of the game. Number 5, sewing. Stupid sewing. I hate you. I hated this newly added mechanic in A New Beginning, and I still hate it. You have to make them yourself. The materials take forever to gather, and some of them are items you can't even unlock until much later in the game. Yeah, like this guy. Yeah, not fun. I will give credit to the game for making the process seem a bit more fun by including a loom, sewing machine, dyeing pots, and an entire studio dedicated to it. Being a part-time seamstress myself, this makes the sewing process feel a bit more real and rewarding once you complete an outfit. By the way, the blueprints don't show you what the outfit's gonna look like. If you want to see it before you buy it, you're gonna have to go online and find pictures of the printed Japanese guide. Also, you're gonna have to know Japanese because that's what it's in. And half the clothes aren't even directly translated from the original title. Good luck. Sadly, I have more cons than pros in this review, and number 6, my last negative to Story of Seasons, would have to be the health system. Honestly, the health system kind of ruined the whole overall gameplay of the game for me. I understand starting the character off with low health, and then later building it up through experience or furthering of the storyline. That's the problem though. There really isn't any storyline nor any special way for your character to excel. Therefore, you're stuck at the same pathetic health level for the rest of the game. This really limits your character in the long run. The only way to slightly extend your health is by equipping accessory combos, which, by the way, you have to forge yourself in the sewing studio. This is accompanied by collecting the rare materials needed to make the accessories in the first place. I didn't find using the accessories very helpful, and even when I tried to use them, I ended up on a streak where I died for like 3 days straight because I planted too many plants and my health simply couldn't keep up with all the watering. That really turned me off to the whole experience. So that sums up my review of Story of Seasons. Remember, those are just opinions from someone who's been playing all the other Harvest Moon games up to this point, so they might be kind of biased. I probably have a completely different perspective on the game than most beginners will. Take from this what you will, but for the most part, I would recommend getting this game. Despite its flaws, I put a good 40 hours into the game so far and intend to put in more until I get my desired house upgrade. I'm in the process of triggering the child events, so I won't spoil any of that for you who haven't played the game yet. I recommend all the Harvest Moon games, seeing as they played a really important role in my life growing up. I have a special place in my heart for each one, and I don't doubt that anyone can enjoy Harvest Moon if they just give it a chance.